Hello, third grade. So today we're going to make a collagraph printing plate of our chosen animal for the quarter. So at the beginning of the quarter, we chose an animal to focus our artwork on and around as the subject matter for all of our pieces. We did a colored pencil drawing, we did a painting, a clay sculpture, and now we're going to do a print of our animal. So that same animal that you chose, I chose a fish, and you can see here's my printing plate. This is what we're going to make today. So our objectives are to know what printmaking is and to understand the process of making multiple prints, which means more than one print, and to create a print of our animal. So what you want to do is start with a piece of cardboard. You need to write your name on the back. You might want to use a marker. I think I'm going to use a marker. Your name and the day you have art. Day A, day B, day C. You're going to flip it over, and you're going to use old, thin scrap cardboard. So this comes from like a lunch, a microwavable lunch. And you're going to break up your animal into different shapes. So I have a shape for the body, and then different shapes for the fins, and the tail, and the eye. And so I think I'll do a different kind of fish for this one. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut out a piece that's going to be the size that I need for the body. So I'm going to cut this tab off. And let's see, this is probably about the size that I need. And I'm going to do a long skinny fish, so I'm going to fold this in half because I want it to be symmetrical, the same on both sides. So I'm going to fold this in half, and take my pencil and draw the top of a football shape. I'm going to cut this out, open this up, and this is going to be the body of my fish. I need a fin, so I'm going to get and cut a fin out. And as you work, you're going to find that you need to make things a little bit smaller, or you need to recut them and make them a little bit bigger. I'm going to use this for the bottom fins. So this can be one fin. And I'm doing a lot of cutting. If you need to draw it first, by all means, draw it first. So here's my fish with a nice big tail. And now I need a nice big top fin. And the reason I want it big is because I want it to fill this space. I don't want to waste this cardboard and not have a nice big fin to fill in. Now, like I said, you might need to draw this with pencil first and then cut it out. But since I've been doing this a long time, I can just cut out my shapes. So there's my fish with all the different parts to it. So now I'm going to, all these little bits of cardboard can be recycled. So all these little bits that are kind of smaller can be recycled. The bigger pieces like this should be put back in the box for somebody else to use. And so you're going to glue these down. And I'm going to start with the pieces that are on the bottom first and glue those down. You want to do a nice frame of glue. Don't just put a dot of glue. You want these to sit on the cardboard nice and flat. And if you have a little bit of glue that squirts out the side, you can just kind of smear that onto the cardboard. Okay, now I'm going to do the body that sits on top of these fins. These fins are glued down, these three fins. Now I'm going to put the body over the top of it. Press that down. Make sure they stay stuck and they stay flat. And remember, I folded this. It has a crease on it, so I want to kind of flatten out that crease. Okay, so basically what I did was I broke up my animal into different shapes. Now, if you're doing like a cat, then you would break it up into different shapes. You would cut a shape out for the body, you'd cut a shape out for the head, and you'd cut out some shapes for the legs and the tails, and you would add that way. So for instance, just to show you, like for a cat, I'm gonna draw like a body. I'll draw the head shape first. So she's got the ears, and then a round face, and then I need a body. So, and she's crouched down, so the back of her goes up a little bit. I'm looking at this cat right here, so the back goes up a little bit. There's the shape of that. So I'll cut those shapes out first. And by drawing this out, I can see if the head is too small or too big for the body. Okay, so there's the head and the body for this cat. So now I need a tail. This already has a curve to it, so I can just cut a curved tail from this. And then she needs two eyes, so I'm going to take the cardboard, fold it in half, and cut out two eyes at the same time. So that's how you would do a cat, or any other animal. Focus on the body, the head, the legs, tail if it has it. Alright, so once you get all of your pieces glued down onto your cardboard base, then you're going to get a cup of gloss medium, which is almost like glue. It's going to be a shiny coat that we put over the top, and you're going to get a paintbrush, and you're going to paint this over the top of your work. And you want to put a nice, generous coating over the top of the brown cardboard and over your animal. And you want to make sure this stays stuck. Now this is a little clumpy, so you want to brush those clumps out of there. And you should have a placemat under your work so that you don't get the gloss medium all over the table. And you want to get the gloss medium all over the top, very generous, getting in all the little cracks and crevices. Make your paintbrush go back and forth along the edge of your animal so that gloss medium really covers up the edging. Oh, look what I did when I pulled the eye circle off because it was still wet with glue. And so when I was using my paintbrush, I pulled that off by accident. So I can just pick that up and put that back on. This gloss medium that we're putting over the top is kind of like a glue. It's pretty sticky, so I can just put that eyeball back on there, press that down, and when this dries, the eyeball won't move. You also want to do the edges of your printing plate to seal the edges, because we're going to be using this, printing with this multiple times, more than once, so we need to make sure the edges are sealed too. When this is completely painted with gloss medium, you're going to put this on the drying rack to dry, and you'll want to put this on a piece of manila paper so that it doesn't fall through the drying rack and the wire rack. Put this on the drying rack to dry, and that's the first step to our printing process, is to make our Collagraph printing plate. Good job. Okay, so on the next day, when your gloss medium is all dry, you'll see that it's kind of got this shiny coat on it, and that seals the paper so that we can now use this as a printing plate. And we remember that our learning objective is to print multiple times. Multiple means more than once, so we're going to actually print our animal printing plate 4 times. So you're going to choose 4 colored pieces of paper that are the size of your printing plate. And you need to write your name on all 4 of them. The name and the day you have art. Day A, day B, day C. Okay, so then you're going to get a piece of paper to go on your work surface so that you don't get ink on the table, and that way that'll save us from having to wash the tables off. And then each table is going to get a tray of ink, and my ink color is white. And then you're going to get a brayer to go with the tray. And the brayer is where you roll the ink onto. So when you get the brayer to start with, it starts black, but you're going to roll and get the ink to evenly cover the sprayer. So you're going to roll one way, And you can see it's not evenly covering, so now I'm going to roll it the other way in the tray, back and forth, and it starts to fill, but you can see it's not covered evenly yet. So you want to pick up your brayer and roll back and forth, pick it up, roll back and forth, turn the tray, pick it up, roll back and forth, so that you start to get even coverage. So you can see I still don't have even coverage on the whole thing. So I need to keep picking up and rolling to make sure it's even. So now if I look at the brayer, it's got a nice even coat. So now I'm gonna roll this onto my printing plate, and I'm gonna cover my printing plate as much as I can with the ink. So not only do I wanna get my fish with the ink, but I also wanna get the background with the ink as well. Since this is a Collagraph printing plate, we put ink over the whole surface of the plate. So if I just roll like this, it's not an even coverage at all. So I need to also roll this way. I need to go at a diagonal. I need to get more ink on my plate, on my brayer. And roll again. And I even lift and tilt it to get the edges of the brayer, tilt to use the edge of the brayer to get in there. Now we don't have enough brayers for everybody to have their own, so you are going to have to wait and take turns, and don't rush anybody. Let them get a nice even coverage. You can see how long this is taking me to get the ink on my fish and on the background of the fish. It's taking me a little while, so you just have to be patient and wait your turn. You want to make sure that your color papers are out of the way so that you don't end up with ink on them. So now I'm going to print it. So when I put my brayer back in the tray for the next person, I need to make sure that I don't just drop it in here like this and get ink on the handle, that I rest the brayer handle on the side of the tray and then pass the tray to my neighbor. And be careful when you pass it, because the brayer might want to roll and fall down in there, and you don't want a brayer with ink all over the handle. So don't give a brayer with ink all over the handle to your neighbor. Be careful, be thoughtful when you hand this to your neighbor. So here's my printing plate inked up. So now I'm going to choose one of my 4 papers, and I'm going to place it blank side down on my fish. I'm going to be looking at my name. This is very important. I don't want to ink up and print the side of the paper with my name. This isn't the front of the paper. This is the back of the paper. I want to print the side that's blank. So I'm going to set this down on top of the plate with my name showing. And the great thing about printing ink is once you set it down, it's sticky. It wants to grab the paper. And then you're going to need to rub. And you can't just rub lightly like this with your hand. You have to use the tips of your fingers and get around your animal, the edges. You can feel the edges of your animal, and you need to rub back and forth. You might get some ink on your fingers as you're doing this along the edge of the plate, and then you might get it on the back of the paper, and that's okay. But you remember what your fish looks like, or what your animal looks like. Mine's a fish. So you need to rub right along the edges to make sure you're starting to see the edges of your fish appear, or the edges of your animal appear. So I can start seeing the top fin, the points of the top fin appearing on the back of my paper. I can see the tail, the main part of the tail that's attached. I can see the back part of the tail that's attached on the back here. Now, I got the top of it, but I didn't get the bottom of it. I can't see that, so I've got to rub. I can see the bottom fin here. Now remember, I have a side fin, so I need to rub here. And my name is starting to smear a little bit, the pencil lines, and that's okay. I've got an eye that I need to rub around. So you're going to use your fingertips to push down and rub. I have not moved this paper. This paper stayed in the same place, and I've been rubbing for quite a while. Your fingers might even get a little sore. You might have to shake them out. So I know that I've done the best I can because I can see the edges of my fish all the way around. And then I can see these pieces that are on top, the eye and the top fin. So now I'm going to carefully peel this paper off of my printing plate. And there is my print. So you can see my fish, you can see the background. And so now I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to print it again. But I can't just put another paper on top because there's not enough ink on here and it won't print nice. So now I wait my turn to get the brayer. I put it with my name facing up where I can see my name, press down and rub. And there's my fish print. So I've printed it twice. Remember, our objective is to print it multiple times, so I need to print it 2 more times. And as you work on your animal, printing it, after you get the ink on the first time, the second and the third and the fourth time, getting the ink on your printing plate is a lot easier because it already has a nice coat of ink. So you just have to kind of get the areas that look bare. All right, another fish print. So you can see up here, I didn't get the top fin very well. I didn't rub good enough or didn't get enough ink on there. So I know on my fourth print, I need to focus on that top fin. If I look back at my other prints so far, I did pretty good on the top fin there. This is probably my best print by far. My first print, I think it was just too much ink. And it kind of, the background kind of makes my fish almost disappear. But these two are better. There isn't as much ink in the background, but a lot of on my fish, so it makes my fish stand out better. Printmaking is a lot of trial and error. Making a print, looking at it, deciding what you did wrong, and trying to fix that mistake the next time around. So I'm going to set these 3 aside and do my last print. If you have time, if we have time, and there's time in class to do this, if you have a really bad print that you don't like, you can get a 5th piece of paper and print it a 5th time to try and get rid of the one that you didn't like and keep the one you do like. But if we don't have time, you just kind of have to stick with the 4 that you make. This one's a really good print. I got my top fin pretty good, so this is a great print. So here are my 4 prints. My blue and my purple are the best. These are my 4 prints. The printing plate can be recycled because you no longer need it. You've printed it multiple times. That's why we make it out of scrap cardboard, so we can recycle it and not feel bad about it. Put these on the drying rack on a piece of manila paper so that they're together and they don't fall through the wire rack. When they dry, we are going to glue them onto a background paper. All right, and on the final day when you get your prints back, you're going to choose a large piece of paper. You'll choose whatever color you want to use. You're going to write your name on the large paper and the day you have art, day A, day B, day C. You're going to flip it over. And depending on your printing plate, my printing plate was a horizontal printing plate, so I will keep my paper horizontal. But if you had a vertical printing plate like this, then you would do vertical paper. But I'm going to do horizontal. I did an extra red print because my first red didn't look so good. And so if you have any extra prints, you're going to pick the ones that you like, and the ones that you're unhappy with, you'll recycle. But if you don't have extra, that's okay. You're just going to use the ones that you have. And we're going to glue these down onto this large paper, spacing them out evenly, having a nice frame around each one. So the first thing I would like you to do is lay them out the way that you want them to go. Now you'll notice that you'll have these nice frames around each one. So I want you to lay them and move them around until you kind of have an equal frame around them, and that it looks almost like a window frame, like the window and then the panes in the window. So this is probably as good as it gets. So don't take them all off the paper now. You've laid them down nice and neat. So just take one, flip it over, and you're going to do a frame of glue all the way around. And then you're going to flip this back over very carefully and lay it right back down in the spot, making sure it's nice and even. Don't glue these crooked like this. Don't glue them close together here and then a big space over there. Even them out. Make sure it's even all the way around. Now the thing about printing ink is when it gets wet from the glue on the other side, it's going to start to get sticky again and make your hands messy. So you want to work as fast as possible. Once you set this down and press it, then take your hands off. Don't keep pressing because this ink is going to get wet again from the glue being on the back. So now I'm going to do another frame of glue, and I'm going to put this right in the middle. I'm going to line up the sides of it. The sides going across. Press that down quickly. Move on to the next one. Make sure you do a frame of glue. If you don't do a frame of glue, then these fish or your animal's going to be flapping around all over the place. So now I'll eyeball and look here and kind of line that up and line up with this one down here, these sides. And then my last one, close your glue bottle up nice and tight. Okay, and there you have your finished printing plate, your Collagraph printing plate of your animal for the quarter. Good job.